Please welcome Angela Brown Burke, the mayor of Kingston, Jamaica, and Enrique Peñalosa Londoño, the mayor of Bogota, Colombia. Here to lead the conversation is Atlantic contributor Joie Chen.
Good morning. So glad that we are all here to have a discussion about a topic. Really, we asked you to represent your communities in the Latin American and Caribbean regions, but this is certainly an experience that we are having everywhere in the United States as well, an experience that we can all relate to, the attempts to control street crime in particular. And you both have taken interesting approaches. You quite early in your return visit to the seat of power as leader of Bogota. I wonder if you could begin, Mr. Mayor, by talking about the approach you've taken just in the first months of your new administration against street crime. They are quite, how shall we say, powerful.
Well, we have done many things, but we created a Secretary for Security, and we think to have order and cleanliness and light everywhere is very important, so we got rid of thousands of posters and things. But one thing that we did was there was an amazing enclave of crime in the middle of the city, like an independent republic. It was only maybe 4 blocks from the presidential palace. It had been there for decades, for 10 or 15 years. It was only 3 blocks away from the police headquarters of Bogota, and the police would not enter this. And this was a place, a few blocks where...
It's known as El Bronx.
It was called as the Bronx.
The Bronx.
And it was a huge place where people would sell drugs, people would come in, they would have huge networks of children's sexual exploitation, prostitution.
And this you saw not only as a center for these very violent crimes, but also as a center where maybe the street crimes, the cell phone thefts, the robberies, which are very, very serious in your city, because your city, unlike other places in Colombia, is actually a bigger center for street crime. That's a more imperative concern at the moment.
Well, actually, in Bogota, we have less murder, a lower murder rate than other cities, lower than Washington. But this was a symbol of the powerlessness of the state, the impunity. It was like where the drug dealers had complete control, the drug mafias, and this was a network that had tentacles all over the city. They had people with long weapons. They had, I mean, it was like an independent republic. The police would not enter. For example, last year, 2 investigators from the Attorney General had been kidnapped for 3 days there, and the police would not enter there. And this was 5 blocks from the presidential palace. So we made a huge operation, a huge operative.
And I encourage you to, if you are interested in this, to go online and look at it, because the video of it
is really amazing.
Very, very striking.
It's like the hell. And there were like hundreds also of homeless, drug addict homeless there. And it was all in the middle of dirt and things. And so we had to have a huge operative to avoid having any people getting killed, because it was almost, people were very well armed there defending this area. So we went with special police,
They're special force operatives. They were quite heavily armed, heavily equipped.
We went like with about 3,000 people early in the morning.
It looked like a war zone, sir.
It was a war zone, and happily nobody got killed because it was the surprise work. But of course, this is the military and the police part of this. Then we have also social work, huge amount of social work to get the children to be taken care of. There were about more than 150 boys and girls we've been used for prostitution. There was, so we brought them to different places, to the drug addicts, to shelters, to rehabilitation centers. But the mafias who were there were not happy when we took over, and we had a circle that we got everybody out. Yeah. And we a few weeks soon, we began to demolish the buildings there. We're going to demolish the whole area. But they did not want this to happen, so they began to hustle, to organize about 200 homeless that would go to hustle the shop owners in some areas. And then amazingly enough, this had a huge political cost for me. Because it's like when your wife gets pregnant, then all of a sudden you see all the women in the city are pregnant. So since then, because they were always there, but you didn't see them. So people began to see that every homeless person in the neighborhood is because we had gotten them out of this area, which is not true. We doubled the budget for taking care of homelessness, more than $70 million a year. But all these statistics went down for crime. All the numbers in crime, and this is some of the operatives, all the numbers of our crime in the area went down. We made a lot of operatives to improve the cleanliness of the whole area, to have the area very clean, to improve the parks, to increase the lighting.
And I want to point out, too, I mean, you've taken other measures. You have done a concentrated focus on, I think, 750, roughly, crime areas, high crime areas.
Exactly. We have concentrated. We identify the most high crime areas, and we go there and clean them, put more light, put more police, put everything.
You're also requiring more video cameras in your city.
And we, for example, we put in the bus system, we put more than 100 non-uniform police. And so we have been, over the last 6 months, this has been operating, we have caught almost 2,000 criminals in flagranti. So all the numbers are going down, but I think everything has to do with order. At city, we have to get rid of all the illegal signage.
And some of the graffiti art that some people have been sensitive to, that some people have objected to. But
some things are maybe considered art, but others is just, I mean, whatever is art, on the contrary, we hire some graffiti artists to do art.
All right, but look, sir, I want to bring in Madam Mayor on this conversation as well, because I think what you have heard from this is Mayor Peñalossa's approach has been a pretty strong one, a pretty forceful one within his community, and he sees this as already making a difference in only a few months of your current administration. Madam Mayor, your approach is different. You similarly do have street crime issues in Kingston, but you have a different vision for how it's going to be solved.
Absolutely, and the vision for how it's going to be solved is really based on understanding what are some of the root causes. And so what we have seen is that a lot of individuals gravitate towards criminal activities because they're searching for somewhere to belong to, a family, you know, to feel as if they are in charge of something, some area of success. We have also seen that a number of individuals just don't see other options. The level of unemployment in our communities, we believe, would be one of the major issues. And so what we have sought to do is to go in that particular route.
So your focus is not so much on a heavy hand of law enforcement, but on job development.
Absolutely. It's about job creation. It's about getting individuals to see that they have worth, and to understand where their talents or where their interests lie, and showing them a pathway to using that to becoming a productive member of society. And, you know, one of the things why I know that this works is because I look at a school and I remember the level of unruly behavior, disciplinary issues were just uncontrollable. Once we brought in, for example, teaching the boys to play drums, it changed. Because here were these same individuals who were underperforming academically, who had nothing else that they could feel proud about, being able to be put on show, playing a whole song, having others dance and sing to it, having others come and saying, wow, that's good. And so all of a sudden, it changes for them.
And has it made a difference? Has your approach?
It has made a difference. It has made a difference because a number of individuals are once again seeing hope. then once again,
But do you have a metric that says your crime has been reduced?
well, put it this way, over the last couple of years, we have had similar programs and we have seen a reduction in crime. Granted, if we talk about a 20% reduction in crime, it still takes us way above areas in Colombia because we started at 55 per 100,000. We're down to 44 per 100,000. And quite frankly, we are not in civil war. But if you look at the cost in terms of criminal activities and violence, is about 5.4% of GDP, which is war.
Mr. Mayor, what do you think of her approach?
I think there is no incompatibility at all. We also do the same. We, for example, began to build amazing schools last time I was mayor as the best private schools in the country in the poorest neighborhoods. But more important than that, we brought the best private schools and the best private university in the country to manage those schools. And the results are amazing. In the poorest neighborhoods, we get some of the best academic results. This is, I think, unique in the world almost. And
But
also,
you're leading this administration
and also
with the heavy
lower,
hand of
and
the
also
law.
lower crime rates, lower pregnancies for youth. And this time, for example, I think there are two kinds of crime. The youth crime, when they become drug addicts and things, so we have to prevent this. So we are, for example, we have already in these few months I am in office, like 6 synthetic soccer fields with lighting, and we are going to complete more than 100 in 2 years. Because a synthetic soccer field with light, first of all, creates activities for the youth. And also, it's not the hardware, but the software is to create championship and things like this. So we have to prevent children from going into drugs with arts, all kinds of artistic activities and sports and fantastic schools and things like this. But then the other part is organized crime. In most crime, people who are stealing cell phones and cars and going to rob at gunpoint, and they're professional networks of people who rob people in the public transport and things. And these are this business. This is not something you're going to do just with social work. This you have to do with the intelligence work, police work, and hopefully,
sometimes with a strong hand of law.
Hopefully jail.
Well, what do you think, Mayor?
I think that is true. First of all, we have to look at different aspects of it. So there are those who are hardened criminals who they are probably in charge of running the organized operation. And those individuals you have to treat differently. There are a number of other individuals who are part of that very same network, but who are there for other reasons. They are there because they find kinship, because they find a place to belong, and because they have not seen other options. And so part of what you have to do is, in fact, to do both. So you have to, with a strong hand, deal with some of the others who are hardened, who are at the top of the food chain, so to speak. And then there are a number of other individuals who can be, who can change, who can be lured. In fact, I tell you this, I have had experience of a number of individuals who were involved in criminal activities with guns and all of that, and who...
Have you ever taken the kind of approach that he has, sending in forces, these special operators, into a community?
That never stops, because it's like an epidemic. If you have an epidemic, you have to treat the symptoms, because it's important to keep the person alive, but you also have to go to the root causes. And the truth is that if all you do is to treat symptoms, then eventually you're still going to have to be treating. So at some point you have to get to the root causes. You have to divert those who are just going in. You have to go into the organization and remove those who are still in that mindset where you can move them, and you have to use all of that, and then there are the hardened ones. But I have come more and more to appreciate the importance of ensuring that our young people in particular, and bear in mind, in Jamaica, we're talking about 60% of criminal activities being perpetrated by our young.
By the young people.
And being victims as well. And so for
Is that
us...
about the same for you?
And so for us, it's important to focus on youths and what they're doing. And unemployment is an issue, our low economic growth is an issue, and so that's where we have to
But
focus.
you have certainly both seen in the United States the backlash against the heavy hand of law enforcement when that has come into play, or the use of mandatory minimum sentences, or the very heavy hand of fighting crime.
Depends what means heavy hand. This is a very...
Well, when you send special operators into a community...
Well, no, because this was not a community. This is an area where the police would not enter, completely controlled by crime, where you have huge problems of child abuse, organized child abuse, huge drug operations. So this is not a community. This is a crime organization controlling a small area of the city, and this is totally different. I mean, but clearly, I think there are many ways of... I don't see anywhere in the world where you have low crime where people can do crime without any punishment, because then it becomes very profitable. And I would also like to emphasize that the whole city has to be orderly, clean, well lighted, so that clearly people feel there is control. And it's not that some areas deteriorate so much that people think there is no authority of any kind and that they can do anything without any punishment. So I think both approaches are necessary, simultaneous. One is preventive, with all kinds of great schools in the areas where you have youth going into crime, sports, arts, jobs, as much as possible. But on the other hand, you also need to punish the criminal organizations which commit crime, especially armed crime.
We have only a few seconds left. I just want to get to a notion from your experience dealing with crime in Kingston, and from yours as well. Is there a suggestion, is there advice you can offer cities, mayors in the United States for how to tackle that really endemic street crime?
One of the things I wanted to say, and I didn't get a chance to talk about that, but often we begin to deal with issues of crime without believing or thinking that members in the community can be of help. And regardless of how entrenched it is, there are individuals who are always willing to come forward and to be part of the solution. Yes, you have to worry about making sure that they are protected, that they have safe ways of passing information, and being partners with government and law enforcers. But what is clear in my mind is that government cannot solve crime by itself. We need cooperation and partnership with our citizens.
Mr. Mayor, any advice that you'd like to give?
I just think that in every corner of the city, the presence of the state must be felt. Not just in terms of police, no, in terms of cleanliness, in terms of great schools, in terms of parks that are well maintained, of sports facilities, sports activities, cultural activities, but clearly there must not be any area of the city where the deterioration is such that somehow it feels that there is no government, that there is no authority, that nobody cares. Always, everywhere, people must feel that government cares, not just in the punishment area, but in the others. But clearly, people must feel that government is there always, doing its job. And for the U.S., maybe there are some, for what I read, I'm not going to be an expert on what happens in the U.S., is that there may be too many people who go to jail for consuming drugs or things like this, which is like a waste of money and a waste of time. But but in other areas, like in Aswin, maybe we have many organized crime which should be in jail, which are not going to jail. So it may be an equilibrium.
Well, on that note, I thank you both for your participation in the discussion and the advice that you offer. Thank you.